Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Education and Business Committee meeting at Tuesday, November 26th. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the lands of the Halkmene-speaking people, specifically the Kwamutsan village. The Board of Education is honored to be able to collaboratively walk beside the Kwatsan, Malahat, Sabasset, Halak, Melitans, Manas, and the Axum peoples who've cared for this land for thousands of years. May we walk gently on the ceded and unceded territories of their lands as we work together to lift up all of the Ahasmanan. Adoption of the agenda. Trustee Schmidt, Trustee Strachan, those in favor? Motion carried. Minutes of the October 22nd, 2024 Board of Education and Business Committee meeting. Board of Education and Business Committee adopts the minutes of the October 22nd, 2024 Board of Education and Business Committee. Trustee Strachan, seconder. Trustee Croft, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, education, school plan presentations. We welcome Mill Bay Nature School.
Thank you. I'm Allison Leslie. I'm the principal at Mill Bay Nature School for last year and the beginning of this year. And I'm excited to finally come and present. I didn't have the opportunity to do it last year. So there's been lots of changes, but great ones. So let's begin about Mill Bay Nature School this year. So a little bit about our story for those that know and don't know. The Mill Bay Nature program ran for 6 years, and then last year in the spring it was decided, because due to enrollment expansion in Cobble Hill Mill Bay area, that the nature program had to dissolve, and we're becoming a primary catchment school. So we welcomed 49 kindergartens into our building this year, and we have some remaining nature Bay kids that wanted to stay from grades 1 to 7. So all in total, we have 90 students this year, which isn't too far from last year. So we have 5 divisions. It is quite a beautiful program going on. So our main building has all kindergartens, and our annex building has 1 to 7s. So a 1, 2, 3, and then a 4, 5, 6, 7, and they work all well together. It's quite beautiful. The older ones are great leaders. The younger ones are just wonderful to be around. I don't know if everybody goes, oh no, 50 kindergartens, and I'm like, it's magical. It really is. I don't know if anybody of you have ever been to the Mill Bay site, but the outdoor space is beautiful and everything everybody wants to be in. So there's rolling hills, there's tubes, there's a brand new playground that the kids are loving. The garden area is still thriving, and we're currently working in a partnership to have George Bonner leadership kids come over and help us tend, just even thinking forward, because starting next year we'll only be K-2. So they've really taken on that leadership role too, as well as the kids that are in our grade 7 that are moving over to Bonner will still have that attachment to help utilize the garden area. We are loving our new gym space. It's been completely renovated and revitalized. I have some photos at the end for you. They walked in and were like, this is amazing. So lots of joy is felt in our building. Everybody's really keen on building this new program. We are early, so it's kind of exciting to be new and not new all at once. So a little bit about our learners. I shared our numbers. We've, like I said, have had the opportunity to sort of start a brand new program and create these beautiful spaces. So when you walk in, it feels calm, quiet. Believe it or not, in kindergarten, the spaces are very inclusive. So you will find a primary resource room and then a sensory resource room upstairs for our learners that need that. We utilize all the spaces we can in our building for our learners. Our staff next adventure is to utilize the staff room to create their own space, because the kids all have a space, and it's exciting to watch. We have a really trusted relationship between, like I said, the Bonner community and us, which has been very intentional because the primary students also have intermediate students at Bonner right now. And so we're really trying to bridge those family connections between the two and also utilize the communities around us. So we've reached out to the Meadowbrook Farms. They've been working with us. We've been working with the Malahat Nation with those kiddos because we're now their catchment. And it's been a really nice beginning to that. And the staff is extremely collaborative. I'm feeling very fortunate to have the staff I have this year. Some of the student voices for grade 3 to 7, I really want to focus on because they have been through a lot, and I wanted to share that they really are thriving with the ones that stayed. So one of the grade students says, "I love the school, it lets me be myself," which speaks to our inclusive learning environment. Grade 5 student says, "I feel safe talking through my problems here." I didn't add the whole quote, but it was with the trusted adults within the building, so they feel really safe and trusted with these adults. And one grade 6 student is, "I like to be able to walk outside when I need a break." We utilize our outdoor space quite often for breaks. We actually have an E that is our outside break person. So we are intentional with our planning that way. I had to do kindergarten boys because I can't bring kindergartens here to share. They'd probably be wide-eyed and kind of like, what's going on? So there's 3 here, just talking about what they love. I might ask Morris if I can try and touch it.
Yep. You go first.
I feel happy.
You feel happy when you're at school?
Yeah.
And what makes you super happy when you're at school?
Playing dinosaurs.
Playing dinosaurs? How about you, Katie? How do you feel when you're at school?
Good.
You feel good? Who makes you feel good at school?
Macy.
Macy, is she your friend?
Yeah.
Awesome. And how about you, Anira? How do you feel when you're at school?
I like to play with Poppy and Macy like a family game.
A family game.
In Toy Stitch.
It's what?
It's in Toy Stitch.
Oh. And where do you play the family game? In your classroom or outside?
Like in the classroom, and you have like a cozy area.
You have a cozy area inside the
And
classroom?
at home, and then you have a kitchen too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. And this is Carson from a different class. Oh, this one.
I love about school. Running around and playing with my family.
And then my video cut off and he took off towards the TV. I was like, I can't get it. It was pretty awesome. Okay, so of course we have stretches, and we were fortunate to sit with our literacy group last week, our workshops, and really dive deep into our early sort of screeners that we've done for September and October. And there are reading discrepancies with our older learners. So it's coming together with that group. That's sort of what we have a committee, a literacy committee at our school that we meet on Thursdays to really wrap around those older learners and what they do, like getting our LA teachers in there to really like sort of help them bridge where their gaps are for this transitional year. And so that we can share out their learning as they go ahead. That's sort of our main focus for this year. Our kindergartens, so far, the early screeners are pretty great. Our social emotional well-being is always a pinnacle for us. I think we talked about it when we talked about those inclusive spaces, and that all students come with their own learning. And what does that look like? What does their space look like? What do they need to learn? So conflict resolution is always the top of our mind. Self-regulation is a big one, and communication of their needs and knowing how to communicate that. And for the staff, trauma-informed practices, because more and more of our kiddos are coming with a lot. The student voices around their stretches, and I really try to dive deep for them to reflect on what that looks like for them, because they don't always want to be vulnerable. So one grade 6 student said, "I know there's many safe adults that will help me work through conflict. I just need to take them up on it." And I thought that was really important for them to say, because they don't always feel that they can, but they know they can. And this is my kiddo that I work with every day. "I have a hard time wanting to read. I don't like it, so I don't do it, but my teacher is good at encouraging me to work harder at the things I like to do. It's really being gentle and every day stepping up to the plate, and that's part of our literacy community too, is to really like, you're here, we're safe, we're going to try every day to bring you to that learning. Our goals. So I've already spoken about literacy, and this is sort of bridging forward to next year too, is to really implement a literacy program that our kindergarten teachers can use that can then bridge to the grade ones and scaffold all of that learning. So we're in the midst of utilizing what resources we have and what we want to do going forward. And then really building up the phonemic and comprehension in our older groups. And we're actually gonna do it with play-based learning because that will bring them to the table and then encourage them more to do their writing, hopefully more as they go along. And the social emotional well-being, I come to every staff meeting with a first principles of learning, and we embed it into our environments, how children are learning, what it takes for them to learn in those environments. So we embed those principles and we focus on every staff meeting on those principles and how we can grow those into our social emotional framework. And our stories behind is just our pictures. It's a little bit lighter. So there's our gym. I encourage you to come and see it. It's beautiful. Our leadership groups working with their younger buddies, our beautiful decorated hallway. Darlene, that one's for you. We did the Terry Fox run. We still utilize very much the nature-based learning because learning on the land is really important, especially for our younger kids, but all of them to really care for this place. And then the inclusive learning space is something we just finished building this past weekend. And that's Mill Bay. Does anybody have any questions or comments for me?
Questions?
Questions? Yes.
I had the honor of taking a little stroll through there this summer, and everything was starting to get fixed up and looking beautiful.
It does look beautiful.
And I've heard nothing but positive. I went out to Bonner and kind of did some stuff out there, and just trying to make sure that all is going well. And I've heard nothing but great things coming out of Mill Bay now. So thank you for all you've done to. We made a hard decision last year, and we knew it was the right one. And we're just, thankful that you kind of hunkered down in there and moved that program forward for all those little kiddos that are in there now, and just appreciate the work that you've done to move that school forward. So thank you.
Thank you. It does really feel positive, and I try not to brag too much, but it does feel positive in there, and it is really beautiful when I go to work every day.
I'm interested in how you're teaching, or in some specific literacy strategies that you mentioned: play-based, story workshop, visual art, and dramatic play. And I'd pick one or any. And how does that roll into learning literacy?
So I can give an example. I'm more of an example person. When we go into the librarian works with all of the classes, and we have an entire, what I call story workshop. So story workshop, if anybody's not aware or what they are, it's bins of different objects that they can create stories out of. So, and you would scaffold. So if we looked at kindergarten, it would be mostly oral storytelling. So they would build it. Sometimes they read a story and then say, okay, now go build me what would happen next in the story. Sometimes it's brainstorming and then the children create a story. And as it goes, they would create their story, they would tell their story, and then as we get into like grade 2, grade 3, they would then write it. And then but it's story workshop, and when I was in Surrey, we sort of played with the idea and piloted it, that why do we stop this play in grade 3? Why do we not carry it on to grade 4, 5, 6, 7? They have imagination. We just assume that it's all up here. But a lot of our kids, as we go along, K all the way up to grade 12, we know they're hands-on. They know sometimes they have to be. I know I'm a very visual learner, and I'll say, please show me, because I'm trying to imagine, but I'm not. And so as they go, then they do have to write their story. They're editing. They can add on. They'll take pictures with the iPad as they get older too, so that digital literacy will come in. And it grows their confidence because they've started at a base and they've been able to grow it and see it and visualize it. So we're trying it this year with some of our Mill Bay kids because they were very used to a much more open experiential style of learning. And to come in and say, write a paragraph, it's not always that easy for them. So it's, let's scaffold that. Let's build this imaginative story that you're used to doing. And now we're going to slowly build it. So next week, we're going to write the stories and things like that. So that's what it looks like.
So I'm interested in the structure of the story because I remember 5-year-olds, and when we get to be grown-ups, we bought into the idea that every story should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But I don't think 5-year-olds really should have to have that. So do kids still have free range within the story, or do they have to follow structure? Or?
I would say the structure would go more as they get older. So younger students, and I don't know how many of you have dived into the early learning framework. I'm kind of a nerd that way. And it really is about having the critical conversations with them about their story and having them understand that this is a story, but of course it can change. Or right now it might be your story and we'll leave this landscape here. And then you might come back to that and it might change again. There might be different elements of the story. So it's definitely their imagination moving forward and them being aware that they are telling a story and what that looks like. Thank you.
How are the teachers feeling about this change and what's happening here now?
Well, the lead teacher came up to me today because I don't have a vice principal. And she's like, I could come with you and share out. They're feeling really great. They are really happy there. I really do mean that it's a really great team that I'm working with, and not one has said I'm super upset about either being transferred over. I do have a couple term contract teachers there too, and everybody feels a part of the team. It doesn't ever feel like this was something horrible or anything like that. So. Yeah.
We know you went through a difficult time, and we appreciate all you did through that time and for us, and we want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you for those kind words. It's about positive thinking.
First off, I apologize for being late. It was a hard run from Nanaimo to here. And secondly, I really enjoyed what I saw. And I had a reflection of my late brother, Tusilo. This was his goal, because he lived his life as a story, and he shared it well. And the children out your way absorbed that. And now I'm glad to see that it's carrying on and actually being expanded, because that's what he wanted, was something from his heart.
That means a lot to me because he was held in higher respect and I never got to meet him. So thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next time, bring your kids.
I will bring, next time I'll bring my littles, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Allison.
Francis Kelsey.
All these familiar student faces I see yours.
Do you want us to just gather like all
Yeah.
here? I think
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have everybody from Francis County want to come up, and I'll introduce the team. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kevin Vanderlyn, and I'm the very proud principal of Francis Kelsey Secondary School. And I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to get to speak today. I'm going to introduce the team here. We have a mix of staff and students. On my left, I've got Colleen Mullen, Vice Principal. I've got Malia O'Donnell, grade 10 at Francis Kelsey, and Malia is part of our, pardon?
11.
11.
Very fast.
The field hockey team, and also did a very nice job presenting at a Remembrance Day ceremony. We got Antonio Yali-Dinardo, grade 11. He's our Prime Minister at the school. Kate Steele, and also DSAC. Kate Steele's in our Climate Action Committee, grade 12. Gotta get these right now. Denny Nagasaki, grade 12, and Denny is also a DSAC member. And then we've got Penny Butler, who is a vice principal at Francis Kelsey. So we've got a big team. We've got 4 school goals, and we've got 4 students. Each student's going to speak to a school goal, and then sort of to fill in the gaps, Colleen Mullen and Penny Butler are going to sort of jump in and explain a few of the pictures here. And as you heard from Allison, we've got some strengths at our school, but also we have some stretches. And obviously that's why we have our school goals, because we recognize that there's areas of growth, like all schools that we have to do, and we're working towards making sure we grow in those areas. The first slide I just want to show here, and this is kind of a nice representative and part of identity as a school. You can see on the left there is a photo of Dr. Frances Kelsey, and as you know, she's the namesake of our school. She's a famous pharmacologist that was born in Cobble Hill, that went down to the United States. She became part of the FDA and was really the key person that thwarted the thalidomide crisis and helped stop thousands from the horrible birth effects of thalidomide. And on the right there, we have a photo that represents the Malahat. The Malahat, we're on the lands of the Malahat. We have a partnership with the Malahat. We have an LEA with the Malahat, and we really work to try to strengthen that partnership. And these are actually photographs. If you come to Frances Kelsey, you'll see many the photograph. It's called Photographic Journeys that now enrich our school up and down the stairs. And there's a couple outside. So we're really fortunate to have those. So just the upside.
Oh, yeah, just go down, yeah, the bottom.
Yeah.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah.
Should be the next one. Yep.
Okay, to start off, Antonio's going to speak a little bit about our first goal, providing meaningful learning experiences for our learners. Go ahead, Antonio.
Hi guys, my name's Antonio. I'm from Frances Kelsey. I'm so happy to come here today to talk about this because to me personally it means a lot. Now, a lot of students in our district, moreover, all over the place, don't have the opportunity or means from their family to participate in all these extracurriculars and these outside of school sports, and in that they miss out on a lot. And I think this is where our clubs and our teams, they come in. They give students the opportunity to create meaningful relationships and lasting friendships that not every student has the opportunity to make outside of school. It's an essential part, I think, of what high school is learning how to make those connections and hopefully having connections that will last long into the future. I think Kelsey does this really well. I'm part of Student Parliament and Model UN, both of which are clubs that have allowed me not only to make friendships, but also to learn important things about all different aspects. In addition to this, we have our academies, Hockey Academy, our Outdoor Adventure Academy, Computer Academy, and Soccer Academy. Again, great opportunities for students who don't always get these opportunities outside of school to participate in these things and to make connections and to learn new things. We also have our task and our dual credit programs, which are great opportunities for students who aren't as interested in the more academic side of things at school to continue on career paths instead of just, let's say, dropping out of school, to continue on career paths and to continue doing things that will help them in their future life rather than being forced into the mold of your English and your mathematics and your sciences. So I think it's a really important program. We also offer tons of different elective courses, which are obviously really important. We have a new thing going on, which is called a flex block. I'd say this one has been a bit of a struggle, but we eventually got it going, and basically what this is an opportunity for students to choose which class they'd like to go to, and to get that opportunity, that bit of freedom, that bit of self-paced learning, that bit of the ability to go do your own thing, and it allows them to focus on areas either they struggle in or they really enjoy. So I'm grateful we stuck with this and are continuing with it. I think it's really important. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Very nice. Colin, you want to hit the down button there? You go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Antonio. So just to elaborate on clubs, if I could. The cool thing about clubs, I'm new to Kelsey this year as well, so it was really neat for me to learn how clubs come about. They're led by student voice. So a student says, I want to do this, and it's something that brings me joy. And so they come to me and they say, I would like to put forward a club. And every club needs a student leader and a teacher sponsor. So I'm like, okay, let's hear about your club. And then they advocate for their club. They give me all the information, all the bits, and I say, okay, now these are your jobs. You gotta go find a teacher sponsor. You gotta go find a room. You gotta find a day of the week to do it. And what is the vision? Like, what does it look like when we're sitting here in June? What are the goals that you want to have achieved? and they go out, do the work, and they come back with their pitch and the name of the teacher and the room and all that information. So that just happened. Cheerleading, we want to get cheerleading going on to school. I know nothing about cheerleading. It sounds very intimidating to me, but they had this beautiful pitch, and now right now they're out doing the work. They have a teacher sponsor, they have a room, but they're working on their vision and plan. Like, what is it going to look like? Are we going to compete? Are we not going to compete? Do we need money? Then we got to talk to the person with money. Like, what is that? So it's really led by students. So it's developing leadership within the school. So it's led by students. It is students' voice, but it's also collaborating with teachers and helping them be leaders or finding other leadership opportunities in the building for their passions. So connecting passions together. So it's quite beautiful. So here we have, is that Model UN, the one in the upper left?
Model UN, yeah.
And you just went to Shawnigan Lake for that, and we
Correct.
placed a couple, we did well.
We did. We had one award, which was pretty impressive. There was about I would say just over 200 kids there from all over the island and British Columbia. So it was very impressive.
It was cool. And then we have the Outdoor Education Academy, which goes out at least one day a week to do different kinds of adventures and paddleboarding, hiking, lots of different adventures. In September, they partnered with, was it the Malahat Nation to do the paddling adventure on the ocean? And we have robotics clubs, lots of different clubs. And of course, we have our wonderful social media campaigns. We have Facebook page and Instagram. And Alana, one of our teacher leaders in the school, also librarian, she helps to capture the voices of students and staff and posts it for all of our family and community. So it's really neat to be able to follow along with that, but also for Penny and Kevin, or Mr. Vanderlyn and his brother, and how to run around and capture those experiences and then see it go out on the social media with students' consent to use their pictures. Okay.
Hello, my name is Malia. I'm one of the Indigenous students at our school. So we've had Indigenous education teachers helping to support our teachers with implying the school, like school district curriculum and everything else. We've had a Métis CTA visit. Her name is Vicky. She came in twice and presented lots of stories and knowledge, which I actually got to experience and I enjoyed it. Our carving classes have doubled or tripled, sorry. We have an Indigenous support room with a teacher in there. You walk by the room, you see the kids laughing and smiling, and they're just joy. There's joy that they're there, and they're happy that all the teachers are there to help them. Our journey of generations went very well. Unfortunately, in semester 2, we weren't able to have that happen. Our admin and INED workers have monthly check-ins with the Malahat Nation. And we are currently working with Malahat Nation on Vignette Project, which now has been showcased on the inside and outside. So as Mr. Van der Linden showed us, we have them displayed. So that's great, and they're actually very interesting to read. I spent a little bit of time the other day reading them, and so if you haven't seen them, feel free to stop by and look at them because they're really cool to look at. Thank you.
And I think this is one of the things that Colleen Mullen referred to. This is some of our students in the Outdoor Adventure Academy, but they did Indigenous canoeing that day, which was a great opportunity, and it looks like they just had a wonderful day.
There's some of our vignette project on the stairs, and Kevin, Mr. Van der Linden presenting.
Yeah, we had a community celebration just this past Thursday where our two main people there, Erin and Jennifer, who are a big part of sort of getting the vignettes up, but we had some special guests. We had the Malahat come and visit. I think they actually invited the trustees, but I think you had trustees.
We were all the way.
You were all the way. It's too bad you couldn't have been there, but it was a nice evening at Francis Kelsey and a nice way to unveil this.
So that's good. And that work was a great foundation for the hopeful forward work together to continue that and deepen that work. Those relationships are beautiful and a great beautiful future ahead. One thing that I noticed is when we're trying to look for pictures to share, we didn't have a lot, and so that's one thing that to work on is capturing the work that's being done across all the classrooms and spaces. So people have been celebrating that work and talking about the work and doing the work, and having guest weavers in and guest speakers and projects and carving, but we don't have a lot of pictures of it. So I think we really need to get that on social media to say, here, use the opportunities and showcase that to the community to continue to build those bridges and partnerships.
Hi, I'm Denny Nagasaki. I'm a grad at Francis Kelsey this year, and I actually kind of handled the same goal last year at our school meeting, and so I'm kind of excited to give you guys some updates on it. I'm going to sort of go off the points on the screen there. So starting with the staff, and they're being familiarized with the mental health literacy plan. I've heard from a lot of staff in the last few years that they have really felt like their knowledge on mental health has been really furthered by some meetings and just by sort of the connections they've built with students and staff in the building, and that makes me really happy. We have a large percentage of IEPs at Kelsey. We're looking at about 20%, so that's 200 students average. And that's a lot of support. That's a lot of kids who need support. And then there's also kids with unofficial IEPs that also need similar supports. And so when we have more staff that are educated, everything sort of just runs a lot more smoothly. I was talking to our librarian, who is also the head of most of the things that concern IEPs at Kelsey. And she said that her main concern was getting funding for EAs, which we do pretty well with. We have the EAs we do have in the building are lovely. A lot of the students know them by name. It's good to see that they're building those kind of connections, except, you know, it's always something that we can improve at. You can sort of never have enough support, so there's that. We had a mental health survey go out this year, and I'm pretty sure we had it last year as well. So students were able to fill that out. That's gone really well. We've been working sort of with building up our CLE 10, which includes some mental health education, really just getting as many people in on it as possible, just getting more educated staff to teach it and making sure that we really make a connection with students. It's not just the Q block that you go to once a week for an hour. It really makes an impact, or at least people leave feeling like they've learned something. And I've heard from students that it actually they've seen some active improvement in that. I've heard from people who were in grade 10 last year who are now in grade 11 that they felt like it's been getting better and better. So that's good. Just as Mill Bay Nature School was saying, staff are trying their best to use some trauma-informed practices with students. It's really, really hard making that transition. You know, we have a lot of teachers and they're each their own individual people, and it's difficult to make sure that everyone is on the same page, except I see our staff trying their best to just really keep that in mind when they're speaking with their learners, and that's also just really amazing. We've had a breakfast program going for the last few years, done by Nourish Couchin, and I know that any student who goes into the room with the breakfast program, they just leave with this whole bundle of food that they love. There's lots of options. There's vegetarian options. There's probably vegan options. I mean, there's fruit, so there's something. We've got some really lovely waffles that Nourish Couchin has cooked up for us. We get them almost every day, and they are actually they're done with like whole grains. They're made with applesauce. They're really quite nutritious, and the kids love them. So that's been going really well. We continue to try and support staff and students in having a go-to adult. So some teachers who really value their student relationships and have a little bit more education on mental health. We just make sure that they are put in touch with the students that need it most. And finally, we have our learning centers. So places like the library and our sensory rooms are semi-advertised to students, and students who need them, who go to the counselors to seek out that extra support, they're given these quiet spaces, and it's been really, really lovely. I've talked to a lot of students who use them or are curious about them, and it's a very open, accepting atmosphere. You know, the library is quite quiet, and it has lower ceilings, and it just really makes the day flow better for some people who need that extra alone time. And I think Kelsey as a whole is a very informed school on mental health, and we will continue to try and make the improvements that we need. You know, although because the mental health awareness is such a quickly changing and just constantly needs improvement sort of thing, you know, it's not really a goal that we can always reach, except I believe that there's been significant progress in the last few years. So I'm happy about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Perfect.
All right, more, oh jeez. This picture keeps coming up. This is more about whole school-wide inclusivity. We feel that the school is quite inclusive, and there's lots of things about our clubs and athletics. There's something for everyone there. We have things for people who love to LARP, and we have people who play chess, and people who love to play dodgeball. Oh, LARP is live action role play. Yeah, and Dungeons and Dragons. So we have lots of these kind of club pictures. Just more of that. The Halloween one, we had a great Halloween scary. I didn't go through it because I was actually I don't like scary things, but yeah, that the whole school was invited to, right? So these great big school events.
What was neat about the haunted house is we did a lower sensory one too. So our students that the full haunted house was a little bit too much. They damped it down for a whole bunch of kids, and we went in a private little dinner with them as we went through, and that was just very emotional to witness how the students came together to create that opportunity. So it was inclusive for all students, which is beautiful. It's still really scary for one.
Do I have to stay on the talking points? I have a couple of critique things. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm very, very excited to be speaking on this. This is something I've been wanting to do for many, many years to make a difference with my voice. Making Francis Kelsey more inclusive school. So we have a Gender and Sexuality Alliance, or we like to call it the Rainbow Club, that meets every week. That's a very nice, safe place for anybody who's questioning their gender or their sexuality, anybody who might be being bullied, or it feels like they need that safe place. So we provide that safe place, and it's very nice. We have some very nice LGBTQ plus books in the library, as it says on the slide, that really is a very nice, enriching experience for our school. Now, I do have a couple of issues that I like to point out. The education for LGBTQ plus people is extremely lacking in a lot of students' opinions. It is put on the club that is run by students to educate instead of the teachers and the curriculum, which we find very frustrating because we have 4 classes a day that we're trying to make happen, and we can't just abandon those classes to go and tell other students about and teachers about what these things are that are very important. It's very much you have to reach out for that information, which you shouldn't have to. Now, one other thing that I want to talk about, just let it come to my head, and it's there. I'm just going to pretend it's there. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is gonna keep stalling until I figure it out. I've talked about that. I've talked about that. I'm just gonna keep. I'm sorry, everybody.
Deep breath, Kate.
Yeah. Okay, so safe places in this school. Yes, education, that's what I was going to talk about. We have so many younger students, grade 8s and 9s especially, who for one reason or another are very ignorant. And ignorance often leads to bullying or teasing or making fun of. And again, because of that education piece that I was talking about earlier, they don't have the tools to respond to situations properly. My personal experience, I have had my shoes peed in. I have had somebody call me a guy in a dress. And multitudes of other experiences have been shared by many different students. And I'm not here to provide a solution for you because I don't have one. I'm just voicing the problems because hopefully you guys have a solution, and that would be awesome. Other than that, that's pretty much all I want to say, and thank you so much for listening.
Just on the inclusivity realm, we have a few of these slides here. This one here in particular is part of the Malahat vignette, and it says come in and learn our teachings, which is really a beautiful place, and that's our counseling area. And there's a whole bunch of flags up there with our international program, so there's that part. And then this is just nearby is the Trans Day of Remembrance that people were coloring, putting up to show some allyship and to just awareness of that.
That wall has actually grown.
Yeah. Yeah, and it keeps growing.
Yeah, so just some final thoughts here at Francis Kelsey. We're fostering connection, belonging, and growth through vibrant clubs and academies, programs, meaningful Indigenous partnerships, mental health initiatives, and inclusive opportunities. We're creating a school where every student feels seen, connected, and supported to thrive. Together, we're building a community with safe spaces and places, ensuring the best life chances for all. So I'll open that up to questions in a second. But like I said, we're a school with that has strengths and stretches. And Kate, I thank you for your honesty.
Yeah.
With that. And
I'm sorry if I went too
no,
much.
that's okay. And I just want to let you know, Kate, that it's I think it is a stretch of our school,
Yeah.
but and probably other schools in the district. So our NID, and some of the students don't know what we do on these days off. So our NID on Friday, when lots of students have the day off, we as a school district worked on those sort of things in staff groups and to further those conversations, to make ourselves stronger and more inclusive as a school and as a school district. So I want to let you know, also part of our staff meeting time was devoted to that as well. So it is a stretch and we're working in that direction.
Thank you.
Okay. I will open it up to any questions people have.
Trustee Thorne.
First, I want to compliment you from what I've seen. I know we've participated with Francis Kelsey. I don't know if any of you kids were there when we started at the Malahat Education Center, and we marched all the way to Brentwood. I was the guy in the pickup that was doing all of the singing. By the time I got there, I had no voice. I've talked to Quatimat, Randy Daniels, who's very impressed with the relationship. So we are working now on looking at probably having a drum and dance night, that we don't know when it's going to happen or where we're going to have it. So some of your students may be interested. And for you, you're a special person.
Thank you.
You told us things that we need to know, and that's how we advance, is because we need to hear it through your student voices. All of you have done so well. I'm really happy. Mental health, it's a growing concern everywhere. So you're valued for what knowledge you're carrying or what you're willing to offer. Every one of you have done something great. It makes this board realize that we're in good hands when our time is up and somebody else comes in. So thank you all.
Trustee Schmidt.
When we go away as a board, we regularly hear people talk about student voice, how important it is, how important it is. And so we as a district ask, well, how do you hear from your students? because we know how we hear from our students. And they go, you do that? You have them there? And I think to myself, okay, you guys have got a long way to go. For us as a board, we take this very seriously. Kate, thank you. Thank you for being brave.
Thank you.
Coming forward and saying your thoughts and opinions, because we need to hear that. Thank you all. Everything that you do, whether it's at DSAC and you raise voices, whether it's at climate action, wherever it is, your voices matter, because this board, you are the only partner group that has a direct link to us. If students need to talk to the board, the students will get the time. Any other group that needs to talk to the board will not get it like the students do, because your voices matter and your voices drive us to make the decisions we make, because we are not you. You're being educated for careers that we don't even know what's going to look like in 4 or 5 years from now. We don't know this, but what we know is that you guys are in our classrooms, and you're telling us what you need to be successful, to feel safe, to feel heard, and hearing about your clubs and all you're doing in student parliament over there. Thank you. And it's nice to see, again, another friendly face at the table, but you guys always talk. I don't know how many times we've heard Francis Kelsey at this table, and every time you assure us that all kids in your school are being heard, or they're being seen. And it's a rare gift that you give your fellow classmates. And I want you to know how important that is, that when you leave school and you go on after you've graduated, to continue with that voice, because that voice really matters, and you guys all have very strong voices. And thank you for talking to us. Thank you for being honest with us, telling us what your stretches are, where you need us to change. And I know that, as we try to get the adults to understand, because I think sometimes we realize that it's the adults that are really necessarily the problems here and not necessarily the kids. And as we try to educate the adults in understanding, so that kids feel better in our classrooms, feel safe. And we know that we've got some work to do with the adults. We know that, and we acknowledge that, and we just thank you for keep pushing it forward, because your voice is important. All of your voices. So keep up the amazing work at Francis Kelsey. Keep hearing your fellow students. Keep getting those clubs. Keep making it so inclusive, and it's just so important for the kids. And I just want to thank you guys for being here today and being so honest. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, I've had the benefit of going to the scholarship presentations at your school over the last few years, and we always come away from them realizing how much the kids have really created their own vision for their future. And I think that really starts in grade 8. You don't really understand that it's happening all around you, but the fact that you've come here today and represented goals that are important to you as a collective, and all the work you do in behind that, like the mental health and Indigenous, etc. It all comes through in that sort of grade 12 when you're looking to understand who you want to be in that next step, and it always shines through in your scholarship presentations. So I think as much as that's about student leadership, it's also about really good leaders that you have at your school that start preparing you for that early. So take advantage of that. Sounds like you are, but yeah, and because that's that next step for you to go on to something new and interesting, and it really shines through in those scholarship presentations. So yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. We have an identity, belonging, and connection policy, and over the years we've come a long way. Yes, we've come a long way, but we still have a ways to go. And I know our staff at the board, our staff, and our other students, and some people in the community are working really hard to get us to where we need to be. And for you to come in and tell us something that some people may not want to hear, I want to thank you for doing that, because that's the only way we can actually see what's going on out there, and much appreciated. To all the students, I want to thank you for coming in today, because it's what you tell us really informs us as a board and reminds us as a board as to why we do this and where we need to go. And it also informs our staff, the senior staff up here, your principals, your teachers, because that will filter through as we go along. So we really appreciate you coming, and thank you very much, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Basket us.
All right.
Please do. And Joe, thank you again for your work.
I feel like the kids did all my work for me.
Now we have safe and caring, inclusive schools, and you're in your
Done. Good evening, everyone. I am so grateful that the kids went first because they have made so many connections to some of the things that I want to share with you tonight. So I'm here to talk a little bit about Erase and then a little bit about how our mental health strategies are coming into our schools. And I think that Mill by Nature and Francis Kelsey both showed how that focus on social emotional learning as well as mental health literacy are key components of their schools. So I'm really glad we have tech support here tonight. That always makes me nervous. So I think one of the things that we know, and I know that the board's had the opportunity to hear directly from the ministry about the commitment from the ministry to supporting mental health and the awareness in BC and more globally that this work needs to continue with more focus because we have a lot of students, families, adults that are struggling. And we know that education is a critical piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole puzzle. And so the ministry, I think, has been looking at how they can align resources provincially so that they can provide greater support to schools. There's a lot of amazing things being created. I would love it if we had some more direct resources in terms of the human support so we can actually kind of connect the dots on what's being created out there. But we really do need to just kind of, as a district, I feel like we positioned ourselves really well compared to other districts because this isn't new work for this district. This work has been underway for a long time, and whereas some places might be focusing more attention, I think this, with our AP and things that the district has already done, we're further ahead than many. So the joint statement that was signed by a variety of folks, superintendents, trustees, the TFQP, just that shared commitment of everyone recognizing how important it is for this work to happen, I think again is unique, and I think it shows that government changes, folks change in different roles, any of those kind of pieces won't impact this change because we have collective agreement that this is essential work as we move forward. It came up earlier with the policies, so the board policy, identity, belonging, and connection, and then the AP, as well as our framework, I think are what are our foundation pieces that allow us to launch forward as we do this work in our district. So the board has their policy, which directly expresses the need for this to happen. Our AP is how we action it. And then the identity, belonging, and health framework is what it looks like for schools. And so that document launched last year, but we relaunched it again this year, continues to be updated as new resources and pieces come online so that we can make sure that it's a document that is living and has updated resources as the ministry continues to provide additional pieces and as well as community supports come online. So just a reminder that that is and continues to be our foundation. I wanted to talk about Erase a little bit. We know that the ministry launched this. I believe it was shared at a trustees meeting. We have relaunched it in the district as well. Originally, Erase was seen more as a reported tool, not a fulsome resource that could be available to school districts. So again, that expect, respect, and a safe education. For many years, people thought it was originally launched with the Pink Shirt Day and anti-bullying, and it has morphed into a completely different resource. And we're just really beginning
to unpack what Erase has to offer in schools and the district. So when they did their engagement strategy, there was a variety of partners that were consulted to make sure that what was being refreshed or put back together was something that was going to be consumable by schools, by community, and more importantly by students. So those were the partner groups that came together. This slide is tricky to see. I don't expect folks to read it, but really when I looked at the change, diversity and inclusion, mental health and substance use, and school and online safety were key pieces. And something that we're focusing on in the district, we have had a mental health focus for a long time. Something we're maybe shining a light on right now is substance use. So I think often when we have our mental health plans or our mental health grants, folks will talk about things they're doing to increase mental health literacy or support mental health. And now we're asking folks to be more conscious about the work that we're doing around substance use. We know that substance use begins when students are young. It could be vaping, all the way into a variety of substances when students are older. We know that families are impacted by substance, and so it is something that we are being a bit more explicit about and looking at opportunities to enhance the curricular resources available for folks. It was important for the ministry to look at a mobile-first design. So this is, not all families may have computers in their homes, but many have phones, and so the device being, or the new website being user-friendly on a phone was important. Many students have access to phones, so that was something that made sure that it was as accessible as possible. I'm going to attempt a video. Morris is getting closer to me. Okay.
I think you may just have to hit play. Just click the play button.
Okay.
Every day, you face new experiences. The good news is, you're not alone. Erase offers support for safe, caring, and inclusive schools. Whether you're a student, adult, or school staff, Erase is here to assist you in finding the support and information you need. Students can use the Erase Report It tool. It's a confidential and anonymous reporting tool that empowers you to let your school know if something is not right. If you want to talk to someone, you can use the Erase website to get support by phone, chat, or text 24/7. And explore topics you may have questions about, such as mental health and substance use. You can find mental health resources and ways to talk with your friends and family about substance use so everyone can make safe and informed decisions about their well-being. Or online safety, where you can find tips on navigating social media and your online activity in a way that feels good to you. Erase also has resources for diversity and inclusion, including information on what to do if you or someone you know is experiencing bullying behavior, racism, or other concerns, including ways to take action to stop it. Adults, Erase offers help on a variety of topics, free training and information to guide you with new and unfamiliar conversations with children and youth. School staff can access free resources and supports to enhance your classroom and training to promote a positive, inclusive learning environment. Ready to get started? Visit the Erase website today and take the first step toward creating safer and more supportive school communities.
So with the Report It tool, what happens in our district is if students access the Report It tool or a family does, the report comes in and goes to Margaret. Margaret then investigates. She'd reach out to the school principal and say this report came in, anonymous or not. Sometimes people will report anonymously. Sometimes they feel comfortable giving their name. They'll describe a situation. And then Margaret and the school principal discuss it. The principal will investigate and support as much as they can. We can't share information always back with families who have reported things because we have to respect the confidentiality of all of our children. And sometimes that can be tricky because families want to know like what happened. But when we explain that, please know that something is happening with that. And then Margaret would have a call back from the school to know that there had been a resolution or what the next steps might be, or is there additional support needed of some kind. And so that's the process within the district in terms of how that works. And sometimes people will share things when they're frustrated, like sometimes it'll be a late night frustration, and then other times it could be, you know, by the time someone's like, this has happened multiple times and I need support, and they're not sure where to go. And sometimes students could report. Margaret's by Vanna over there, there's these large posters. We just had these posters made, and those have gone out to all of our schools last week. And again, it has the information for schools to, again, encourage and support. And I was talking to one of our elementary principals. I'm going to share this now. So he shares this information at the beginning of the year, and he goes through the website with the students in an assembly, and then has posters strategically placed around the school as a reminder. So we hear often from students that the place they feel the least safe is near washrooms. And so he strategically, when he got this poster, he said, I know exactly where it's going to go. And so it's just that visual reminder that, okay, if I need help, I can ask for help. And so those have now gone out to all schools. They have additional materials. They're working on translation for some of the other posters. We were wanting to get this particular one in French. They don't have that yet, but they're working on it. And they are working on some other translation pieces so that they can be more accessible to communities. We talked about the poster. And then I just wanted to connect this. I think I was on there for race and mental health, connecting this to our work. And I think, again, as a district, I feel super honored to be back in this work. This is only my second year back home, I call it, in the district. And I look at the work that is happening on non-instructional days, as well as with our counselors, our principals and vice principals, classroom teachers. We're embedding mental health and wellness, individual and collective well-being. Those are threads that go through everything we do. And so whether it's cultivating cultural safe spaces for all on our September NID, or we had Dr. James McCocus as our keynote on Friday, really looking at elevating Indigenous voice. He's a doctor, and his message was about LGBTQ plus students and trans students feeling comfortable and confident and safe in places in our district. So when I hear students sharing that this is our work, it is our work, and we're doing the work. So I feel really grateful to be in that work. So other places, mental health plans. Each school has a mental health plan. They are refreshed every couple of years. They do surveys, as you heard the students refer to, and they can apply for mental health grants. We use our dollars that we get from the ministry to support schools in being able to action their plans. And this year we asked for a specific piece of their grant to focus on substance use, because again, for right now, we want to have that specific focus. And connecting to our schools, this resource, Language Matters, was part of a foundational document that we also used on Friday with our NID. It's a fantastic resource that's gone out with schools. Counselors have done some work on it as well. And additionally with our schools, I will say Francis Kelsey didn't talk about, but when we look at Erase specifically in their advisory group, they spent time with all of their advisories talking about Erase and what it looks like, how to access it, what resources are there. And we shared with parents the other night the valuable resources that are in that website as well, so that they know that there's how to talk to kids about blank. And all of those different prompts are there, because as a parent, I know there's difficult conversations that we sometimes have to have with our kids, and we may not know where to start. And so there is that section for adults that supports that. And the last thing I want to share, and I know you like when I can put it in your hand, so I'm going to pass it around. We have our very first district newsletter going out to families. I'm going to say this month, any minute, really soon, after you've seen it. It's hard on paper because it's not meant to be paper-based. Everything in there is a hyperlink that takes folks to other resources. So this is a focus on mental health awareness. Lots of information for families. The second piece on the back was done by the elementary counselors. And it's based on the book Anxious Generation. And the whole, it's a really great book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And we are going to host a parent night on January 15th on Anxious Generation to talk about families around use of cell phones and what are some ways that they can kind of support their child with some of the research around becoming more disconnected, play-based versus phone-based childhood. And so this newsletter will go out. And again, we plan to do this a couple more times this year with that goal of just elevating the work that we're doing in the district and continuing to try to connect the dots for families around the resources out there, because there are many.
Questions?
Trustee Schmidt.
So thank you for being incredibly thorough, because I know when we were at Vancouver Island School Trustees meeting in October, we got a full erase presentation. And I know that some of us were questioning, okay, how do kids find out about erase? We had questions about, making sure that our kids, and then of course you've now completely set us up with knowing that, in fact, we now know how kids are going to know about race and they're going to know how it works. And I don't know about Trustee Croft, because it was the two of us that both thought we need to know more. Yeah. And so just thank you for this completely thorough presentation, because my mind really is at ease that kids will know about race and do understand what it's for. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm curious. I really like that portal, like the portal where you can go in and as a student or as a parent. But how often is that being used? Are you tracking that, or is it like mindful that you're still getting the word out there that there's some availability? Yeah.
All right, I just talk to that.
Not that frequently, honestly.
Okay.
I think when it first came out and when I was the Safer Schools coordinator in a different district, it was very, very frequent. But I think some of the work we do around mental health in general, I think that students have a better understanding of who they can go to, who are their trusted adults. So we see less of it. And we actually see parents put in concern. So I would suggest we probably have had maybe 7 this year.
Okay.
So it's not that frequent.
And do they track the amount of hits on the website so that they can determine, who their client group is and where they need to improve? And
Not that I'm aware of. I've never seen stats from the Ministry of Health.
Because that's a lot of investment in that kind of infrastructure. So
We could ask, we have a mental health team leads meeting, I think Wednesday or Thursday, so we could ask if they are tracking any site-based data. I can ask that, I think, on Thursday.
Thanks.
How is this helping the teachers feel that they're in a safe, caring school?
Teachers, I think, well, my hope would be as they, again, look at the trauma-informed approach and understanding mental health literacy more, I think it does help their own mental health literacy and understanding what's happening for them. So when we've worked with some of the mental health literacy pieces with UBC, they're finding that as people know more, they're able to recognize what's happening for themselves. So we talk about co-regulation, self-regulation. We know that some of that work supports teachers. I think whenever there's a common focus, like there has been with initiatives in the district with literacy, numeracy, mental health, I think when people feel like they're part of something together, that collective responsibility can help with folks' mental health because you feel like you're part of the change. More specifically, I would defer to others to maybe answer. Does that get to what you're asking?
Yes, because, well, we don't know, so we ask.
And our data for that would be to look at our learning survey with staff. I don't know how many staff, but that's certainly data that we could bring back to see how are staff responding. If we have a specific question in our learning survey around staff wellness, we could certainly either look at, I don't know if it's too late to create the question, but that's something we could put through that lens as well.
Trustee Croft.
I was just wondering if there's any synergies or interactions with ERACE and with the ICY perspective programs and activities.
I don't know, like I would say that coming from the same place in terms of research and support, and coming from the same framework and commitment from the government around mental health. But I think one is kind of been rebranded, that's always been there. And that work around the ICY teams is a specific strategy within the mental health framework. But I would, Margaret, anything you would?
The ICYs, I think I mentioned it earlier, came out of the 2019 Pathway to Hope program. And so it is aligned in the sense of erase our strategies for our community and our students and our teachers, but then ICY is responsive to specific needs.
Yeah.
So they're filling in that gap in between. So yes, they're connected, but not
They're aligned,
explicitly.
but yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I think with that, some of the pieces around the race, when the ministry has a triangle that kind of talks about schools and what we're doing, kind of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 is one triangle. And then the ministry is this other triangle coming down. And I think when we look at ICY, that's the response, and when we kind of go further up. So I think there is definitely alignment in their strategy.
And one more thing, we are very close to hiring. We shortlisted our counselors. We made some decisions. I'm going to be making an offer to one of them. And depending on how she responds, we'll offer one of the other ones. But we have 3 really strong candidates. I'm very excited.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. And we look forward.
Thank you, Morris, for being here. So there's no tech sweats.
Okay, strategic plan mission statement.
Sure. For trustees that aren't here today for a variety of reasons, would they be able to submit some thoughts after the meeting today?
Absolutely.
Okay, so thanks. Very exciting. After a year and a half, we are very, very close to getting our draft strategic plan ready for the December 12th planning meeting, where we would go over the whole item. Today, we would like to look at the mission statement. I've just copied for you policy 1 from the board policies, because it does have our current mission. Our vision. Our vision is our story, our mission, and then our values. On the other page that I just provided, this was the work that we did on values last meeting, and the words that are in the cursive or the writing are the ones that were came up more often. So they're more enhanced on this. And then there's the statement around the values exercise we did last session. Our vision, this is a draft of a vision, and we'll go over this again on the 12th, because today I want to do mission, but really we need to see the values that we've come up with. The vision has been from what you said and from the feedback we've had over the last year and a half from the different partners about where the feeling that we've gathered. Okay. On the sheet that says mission, in looking at other plans from other districts, etc., these are 3, and it's kind of crushed here, but there's 3 separate just stems. It could be something like the sense of, in the Council Valley, we embrace literacy so that each student has opportunities in the future, or some sort of sentence in that way, or just we embrace equity so that all students can become, etc. So they're just 3 different stems. This is just an example, and if you had a pen, I'd encourage you this is for you to doodle on, basically, this sheet here. Again, our current mission statement states, our students are agile and prepared to transition to a future of their choosing. And that is on this sheet of paper right here. What do you this is kind of a working part of this is a working part of this meeting. So it was, what do you see as the strengths or the weaknesses of this current statement? And what would you like to add to it or bring forward?
Sure.
Trustee Schmidt.
What I'm wondering is if trustees can take this away and fill it in and really, now that we have this, and then bring it back to our 12th meeting when we get really digging into what this looks like.
Or, that's a great idea, but I would even suggest before the 12th. And that way you could work the material in for the 12th, but.
Yeah. So we could submit
Take it as a takeaway, yeah, and submit it all so that it's.
Submit it to the superintendent, our thoughts, and then that can help.
Because I know we have 2 trustees that aren't here tonight that have some stuff that they would like to add as well, and maybe they can get a copy of this. Okay.
Could you aim for the 4th? Having our thoughts? It's an open board meeting, so before the board meeting, I would gather going.
You good?
Have something on.
Well, no, just a deadline to get the information into the superintendent.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good.
That sound reasonable?
That's
very reasonable.
I appreciate it, yeah. And then on the 12th, we'll bring a full package for you to review, and then we can again mark it up and change it for a January, hopefully a January launch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else on this? Okay.
Nope.
Business and operations, Mr. Sandquist.
Thank you. Today I have 2 administrative procedure updates as we've been working through some of our out-of-date APs. The first one that is before you is AP 155 around event protocol. When reviewing this AP, we noted that when organizing a district event within district schools and introductions take place, that we did not have our district elder listed in a prominent place, which should be there for introductions in a most prominent location. So we've added district elder under 3.1 as the first introduction, just to align with the public event dignitary protocols. So that is the only change.
Trustee Schmidt.
Through the chair to the superintendent, on number 10 here, invitations to trustees to attend a school event. So I got a quick call from Trustee Sousa today, and he's just wondering if principals can be reminded to send trustees invitations, because we really don't get many invitations from our sites as far as special events. And so it is in our AP. So maybe if at next superintendent meeting or something, if you just gently remind them that trustees would like to attend events if they're invited. Thank you.
I would like to mention that we used to be able to get on what's probably the principal's list for all the school newsletters, and then when we changed to MyEd, there didn't seem to be a device to do that. Or at least we all fell off at that point and haven't gotten back on. Is there any way we can? I just remember saying, well, I don't get the newsletter anymore, and go, no, that's because that's MyEd. So I never did overcome that. And it was awesome because you always knew what was going on, right? And you knew what would be nice to go to.
And they have a tool, because I know I still get a cool Cobble Hills.
Yeah. Okay, well.
I'll answer, yeah, it was, sorry, Trustee Croft, you're actually, in MyEd, you select all your parents and it sends. I suspect some schools also have a list of also add on some people, so I think that's a great suggestion. We'll bring up the principals meeting.
Okay, all right. And I'll send out a couple of emails to my liaison schools as well and just see where it goes. Thank you so much.
To the next one. The next review that was done is to AP 513, which had not been reviewed since September of 2018. It's specific to travel expense reimbursement. I contacted the BC School Trustees Association to get access to the survey that they send out annually around what other districts have in their per diem allowances. We already align the school district's mileage rate to the BC School Trustees Association. So when the BC School Trustees Association make a change, we automatically make that change. So this AP has some updates to align to the current BC STA rates and to align future changes to just simply align to that. So the main one, are some of the highlights here, would be under accommodation. It was previously $25 per night. BCSDA has it at $30. Most districts have adopted the BCSDA rate. Under meals, you see them change to $67 per day, and previously we had a max of $57. That was $50 plus $7 for incidental. I've taken the incidental out. It was mainly intended for those home phone calls and call and collect from Vancouver, which just don't exist today. Most people have cell phones, so I've removed it from the per diem rate. Even a lot of people were claiming it, even though they probably didn't have them. So what it does is it takes the breakfast up from 10 to 15, and I think it was 15 to 20 for lunch, and then 25 to 32 for dinner. So that aligns with per diem rates. I also looked at the out-of-Canada rates because there's certainly higher costs for those travel. And most districts had that set around $105 per day, knowing the cost of going to the US for conferences, etc. So there's some updated per diem rates there. No other changes were made other than now it will match BC policy. So that's something.
Questions of Trustee Croft?
I'd just like to know how I can get a gig that takes me to the US for a day or two.
There aren't that many. My household, yes, but there aren't that many that go to country. Things like the deeper learning dozen that we used to participate in, there was often concerns about what it was costing to travel.
It's good to have it, for sure.
Yeah, that one won't be used very much, but the other ones are. So that's what we've done in regards to the updating this AP, and it would just automatically now be updated as BC SDA annually update their rates. And that, Chair, I believe is my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Policy Committee highlights, Advisory Committee meeting of November 19th, Trustee Croft.
I know everyone looks forward to this because it's always the very last thing on our agenda for BEBC. And usually when the chairman says, it's time for that report, you glance at the clock, just saying.
Actually, the reason I glanced at the clock today is the people have to leave here.
That's true. We got a presentation tonight. Okay, thank you very much. This came about because we weren't really sure how the invitation, because advisory meetings are in fact public meetings, but in fact the information doesn't necessarily travel after the advisory meeting. So that's why we presented here. We had a nice check-in. We found out that in terms of hiring new custodians, that is working out, and it is making life better and easier and more efficient for the folks who look after those duties. We have quite a few sports teams from the schools. We're off and winning and earning placements at the regional and provincial levels. We did go through the regeneration of the strategic plan, and we did gather some inputs from that, which we all found valuable and in many cases new information. But of course the highlight of it was that this was time for the all-important pre-holiday vote to identify the favorite dessert bar. Student representatives Denny and Elwin were appointed as the co-electoral officers for a free and fair vote, and the results are, starting from the bottom, gluten-free brownies, 2 votes, lemon squares, 4 votes. I think really the gluten-free brownies were underestimated and should have done better, but there we go. Lemon squares, 4, coconut raspberry, surprisingly, also rang in at 4, but of course the grand winner was the Nanaimo bar at 9 votes. But I know the group did want to say that although we like the Nanaimo bar, we actually think Cowichan is a better place. That's all I got.
Hey, thank you very much. Motion to adjourn. Trustee Schmidt. Trustee Strachan. Thank you very much. We will see you next week.